Welcome, Extended Gamut Podcast, Episode 7.
Episode 7.
It's been a little while. We've been on the road. It's been busy. We got a lot to talk about. And by a lot, we have 4 things to talk about.
Exactly 4 things to talk about.
So, on this episode, we're going to talk printhead densities and different things. Andy laughs.
We're going to get real technical.
Real technical. Would you rathers, all sorts of stuff. Stay tuned. All right, here we are. Andy has composed himself. It's time.
I'm ready to get into some printhead densities.
Let's do it. First, let's talk Printing United. We just came back from Printing United not too long ago.
Great show.
What'd you think? Great show?
I thought it was great. It's huge.
I read some stuff that said it was like 7% growth over the 2019 Dallas show. And if you work backwards, they thought about 30,000 people went to the Dallas show. So 7% of 30,000 would be 2,100, so that would put you roughly around 32,100 attendees.
Wow. But who's counting?
But that's a...
It's a big show.
That's a big show. And it felt big.
I thought it felt much bigger than that, even than Dallas. Maybe just booth location and excitement level. I think a lot of people were just excited to be at a show and see, 2 years worth of new technologies.
I felt like there was a big build-up to the show, but then there was a moment like a couple months before where you were like, wait, is anyone going to go to the show? But then like the weeks coming up, you were getting a lot of reports, but you're like, what's actually going to happen?
Yeah.
So there was probably a lot of relief when that first day happened, and it was just like lots of people.
Yeah, it was slammed.
Most surprising thing at the show? What were you most surprised by?
That I'm allowed to say on the podcast.
That you're allowed to stay on the podcast?
No, that I'm allowed to say.
Oh.
I think just the sheer volume of people.
Yeah.
What about you? It seems like you got something.
I asked you a question that I wanted to answer.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like I was pleasantly surprised that the number of people we talked to that didn't even bring up the economy. And they didn't bring, going into the show, it's like, who's going to go to the show? Prices are insane. No one's going to buy anything. And it was like, all of a sudden at the end of the show, I was like, wait, I didn't have one conversation about someone that's like, how do I contract my business? It was like, people were there looking to invest in their business and buy things and talk about moving things forward. Sure, as we talked to people, yeah, this was up and then this was down, but it wasn't anything like a paranoid group of people.
I think the people that show up to a trade show like that are the ones who are deciding they're going to invest in their business, and it might be that there's a subset that just stay back because they are worried and they want to cut costs. And but I didn't have that feel at all of we're trying to find something cheaper, we're trying to cut costs.
I found a second room of the show.
I think there was 3.
Well, at one point I told someone, no, this is the only room. And then the next day I was like, oh crap, I gotta find that person.
You just start tapping people on the shoulder. Hey, did you? Oh no, I was trying to find someone else.
And there was a DJ in the lobby.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. Maybe that could be us next year. Is that a promotion or not? Not sure.
All right, let's get into
it. All right, Printing United. Our discussion on Printing United is over. We'll be at the next Printing United. That'll be in Atlanta. But prior to that, ISA will be at the Mandalay Bay back in Vegas in the spring. So, saddle up.
Saddle up, Jackie.
All right, let's get to some topics. We've been having a lot of different comments and views and questions on YouTube. People going to IT Supplies/questions and submitting questions there. So one was there's a new printer from Epson, the D1070. Mm-hmm. And we put a video out maybe, 14 months ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of people watched it and wanted to buy it, and then it got pushed out. It's still, I think, pushed out. So here's the question's like, what's the current ETA? And then a follow-up question is like, why are so many people watching videos on this, and why is this printer attractive to people? So what's the D1070 and the current ETA?
So the D1070 is the Epson's Dry Lab Mini Lab printer. So it's an 8-inch max capacity, small footprint. I think it's 18-inch by 18-inch cube for high-speed photo printing. So I think it does 460 4x6s in an hour. So it's cool. They've had printers that do this in the past, but this one is refined in a bunch of different ways. I think the most notable is that it can do double-sided printing on sheet-fed stock, which I've never been able to do before. So for like postcards and stationery and that kind of thing.
What goes on the second side? Anything you want?
Anything. So it'll flip it automatically and print it again.
And print a picture?
Yeah.
Double-sided. The media can be printed on both sides.
If it's cut sheet, yep. Double-sided coated, which we have. And so that's cool because you can think of some pretty cool applications for, I think, $2,500 to $3,000 is what the price is going to be. That you can't really do effectively now, or it's very manual, or you might have to use one of Epson's other kind of photo kind of wide format printers, which is it's just not made to scale.
Do you remember the D3000?
Yeah.
So that was a larger. It sat on the ground. How is this different from that?
This one is much smaller, so it's more like the D870, similar
so
footprint.
The D870.
So it sits on your desktop. 18 inches by 18 inches. And, so, in terms of the ETA, so
can I buy it? Can I have it?
You can buy it. You can't have it just yet. I think we're being told it's like this week. So end of November, maybe.
By the time someone watches this podcast?
Yeah. And so the first units to ship will be the ones that are roll fed only, and then they'll get into shipping the sheet fed double duplex version. So they're beginning to trickle in. I think we have back orders placed that should start filling in the next week or two. So I would think after Thanksgiving is going to be a good kind of, that's when the first ones will start shipping.
Okay.
So we're excited. It fits a niche in the market that doesn't have a great solution right now. And so when that's the case, sometimes it can do really well. So we'll find out.
We have a few on order for demo purposes too, right?
Mm-hmm. So we'll do more videos, hands-on. Here's how it works. Here's the quality when we have the printer.
Okay. Question 2, related to what do we got? Section 179.
Oh yeah, this is your expertise. Section 179. So what was the question we got?
It was around a couple concepts, and it was like, is it too good to be true? Is this just like the Hummer? It used to be like a Hummer vehicle. People thought it was like a fake thing. How does it actually work?
Like when you buy a heavy vehicle,
People
and you
don't
can
like to, like some people do, but most people don't like to mess around with their taxes. So they're like, all right, is this like a legit thing? Can I actually do it?
Yeah.
We would say, talk to your accountant. You should have an accountant. If you don't, then you get a little nervous. But it is a legitimate IRS. You could go to just Google Section 179 IRS, and they have websites there. But essentially, it is the government wanting you to invest in yourself or your business, because their belief is like, if you take the money from the business and instead of paying taxes on it, you spent money to invest in your business, it's going to fuel growth for the U.S. economy. So that's like at the core of it. They're not just saying like, hey, we found a way for you to pay less taxes. They're like, take the money you would have paid in taxes and give it to us, put it back into your business, because the more successful your business is, the more money you're going to eventually spend in the economy, the more people you might hire, and it's just fueling GDP growth for the United States.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's it. Essentially, it's a 35% discount. So if your tax rate is 35%, you can essentially save 35% on the equipment. So if you spend $100,000 on equipment, instead of that being $100,000 of profit for your business, that $100,000 is taken out. And if you had a 35% tax liability, it would have saved you $35,000 or 35%. Now, you have to know this. It's not like if you do this or don't do this, like you always got the money. So the trick here is you used to depreciate the asset over the course of time. So let's say you depreciate over 5 years, which would be 20% of the purchase every year for 5 years. What this is allowing you to do is pull all that into the current year. And even if you bought it this year, you could depreciate it on this year's taxes. With the stipulation being that it's been installed and the equipment is in service by December 31st. So for printers, you need to buy them, they have to ship, we have to install it to officially be, within the regulations. If it went to January 3rd, you could still claim it. You would just claim it in your 2023 taxes. But a lot of people are trying to think, if I made money this year, what are some ways I can invest in my business and have less tax liabilities and invest more in the business? So we got a couple YouTube videos we made, I think last year, about that and how it all works. So
yeah, I think if you're considering equipment and you are looking to bounce ideas off of a sales rep and then kind of hear what we've seen with other customers, it'd be a good thing to give us a call and we can talk through, how it might make sense for your business. Because every business is different. Everyone's got different. Some might not have been profitable this year, so then you're not really helping. You're not helping your case by trying to squeeze equipment into this year. So it's kind of a case by case.
Yeah. Do you feel wiser now after that description?
Yeah, just like coming in this room with you, I start feeling wiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of like a tingly.
Yeah, like a wisdom tingle.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, let's move on. Number 3. Does having a printer with fluorescent impact the printer's ability to print normally and achieve a standard gamut?
Yeah.
So there's new fluorescent printers out there. So there's a couple that are indifferent. Maybe talk about both of those and what that looks like.
Yeah. So the first fluorescent printers that we sold were Epson's dye sub printers. So the 9470H had fluorescent pink and fluorescent yellow inks. And since then, Epson's come out with the F10070H, which also has the option to have fluorescent pink, fluorescent yellow inks. And then at Printing United, they just announced the 6470H, which will have the ability to have fluorescent pink, fluorescent yellow. So Epson's got their fluorescent dye sublimation printers.
Primarily used for probably sports uniforms or cycling or high visibility, they call it. So that's the primary goal is high visibility, but it is fluorescent ink.
Yep. And so those inks are treated as spot colors. So if you don't specifically identify in the RIP that you want to use fluorescent pink and fluorescent yellow, then it's just treated like a CMYK printer and it has no impact on your gamut. So it's not going to choose to, if you had a picture of a school bus and you want to print it and you didn't do anything but just send it through your normal profile, it's not going to decide to use fluorescent yellow ink and you're not going to get a pop of yellow. You have to specifically call it out that I want to use fluorescent yellow here. So it doesn't have an impact on your standard gamut. The other fluorescent printer that we sell is Canon's GP line of printers. So GP 2000, 4000. Those printers are different. They actually can use the fluorescent pink ink in the process colors. So in your standard profile that you are using, if you were to send a picture of I was working with Sal Passanisi, Pantone, previous guest at a trade show, and he was doing some prints using the Canon GP series, and he printed like some metallic chrome red car, like a sports car, and he just threw the normal profile, and you could really see a cool effect just printing that red metallic car using that fluorescent pink ink. And he didn't do any kind of spot color naming or anything like that. It's just using it in the gamut.
Does that mess like the true image up though?
So that's you can disable it. So you don't have to use the fluorescent pink ink. But in that case, you would want to know whether you have it on or off because it could affect the standard gamut in a good way. It's actually larger using that fluorescent ink. But so that's the two different ways that that it's handled either as part of the process colors or in Epson's case as a spot color.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
You're very welcome.
Let's try to do one more question on this episode. What do you got?
What do you got?
You want to do the one on melting powder and F170 and the difference there?
Yeah. Yeah, so this person was asking, do you need melt powder on the F170, the Epson sublimation F170? And this is kind of cross-contaminating.
Two really popular things happening right now.
Yep.
But completely separate.
Very different. Yep. So hot melt powder is used in the transfer process using a DTG printer with transfer film to create what people are calling FTG or DTF prints.
Or FTF.
Oh, is that another one?
Film to fabric.
So you would need an adhesive, either as a liquid or as a powder melt, to apply this film layer that was printed with DTG printing. So that's one thing. So that's hot melt powder. You do need some kind of adhesive, either a hot melt or liquid for that. But this was specifically on an F170 video.
Which is a dye sublimation printer. Their desktop dye sublimation printer.
Yep. And so the difference is on DTF or FTG, you have to stick that ink to the surface, and so you need to use an adhesive of some kind to do that. With dye sub, you don't actually use. There's no adhesive. There's nothing to bind the ink to the fabric. It's dyed, so it's like.
And it's using sublimation. The whole concept is sublimation is going from that one state, skipping the liquid state, gas back to solid.
Yeah. So if you picture like tie dyeing when you were a kid or something like that, there's no you're not using glue, you're not sticking the dye to the garment. It's dyeing it. It's fusing with the white threads and it's coloring them. So that's what you're doing with sublimation. So there's no adhesive, there's no powder. It's heat and dye sub ink. It's the ink itself that is the special sauce and how you get the dye to the fabric.
We should try tie-dyeing shirts. Maybe that could be a fun activity. A team building. Podcast team building. The whole podcast team is going to do an event.
Okay.
We'll tie-dye shirts. All of us. All two of us.
Yeah. Next episode, we wear them.
Or we stain a bunch of stuff. All right. So we talked Printer United, D1070, some tax talk. Tax talk.
Tax talk with Jeff.
Tax talk and toffee. And then we have the melt powder and the fluorescent. So 4 topics. I think we'll wrap it up.
Let's do it.
That'll be it for this episode of the Extended Gamut. We hope everyone learned a few things. And you can find us on all the usual platforms. Let us know if you have topics you want to discuss in the future.
We have more topics here. We've saved all the good ones for next episode.
So stay tuned for episode 8. But for now, we're signing off for episode 7 of the Extended Gamut Podcast.
Thanks, guys.